Are you a good husband? No matter how you answer that, none of us are perfect, and we could all use a little sprucing up around the edges, so to speak. But frankly, there's some not so good advice out there for husbands these days. So let's clear some of that up. I'm the Catholic Idiot, and today we're talking about what it really takes to be a good husband. Husbands, love your wives, as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. St. Paul here gives us such a simple and profound look at what it means to be a good husband. Love, real and true love, consists of sacrifice. Jesus Christ gave himself fully and completely to us. He gave us the perfect image of what it means to give all of yourself to another person. When I took my wedding vows, I committed myself wholly and completely to my wife. Good times and bad, no strings attached. And if you are married, you took those same vows and you made that same commitment. We as husbands are called to love our wives selflessly and without holding anything back. We are called to a life of sacrificial love in imitation of Christ. But the real question is, how do we do that? Like from a practical perspective, what do I do or not do in my marriage to love my wife with a sacrificial love? I mean, after all, most of us aren't going to be called to actually literally die for our wives, the way that Jesus literally died for us. We need to start with the premise that being a good husband isn't a one-time event. We choose it daily. We need to wake up every morning and actively seek ways to make our wives' lives better. We need to realize that her life, her well-being, should come before our own well-being. That's how we sacrifice ourselves for our wives. So let's explore some very practical things that we as husbands can do or avoid doing every day to be better husbands to our wives. This one seems really obvious, but if you're anything like me, it could actually be harder than it sounds. Simple things that we say to others in passing about our wives, it can leave lasting impressions, and it could really harm her reputation and hurt her feelings. Things that don't really even seem consequential to us at the time can be very consequential. I can be a very sarcastic person, and I tend to be especially that way when I'm around people that I'm comfortable with and people that I love, my friends, my family, my wife. And I tend to poke fun at people when I'm very comfortable with them. And so sometimes I can take it a little too far, and I might not even realize it until after the fact. Now, I'm not telling you to change who you are, but you got to be aware of yourself a little more if you struggle with this same thing. Something we can all do to try and counteract this tendency if we fall into it is to purposefully go out of our way to say something nice to others about our wife. Maybe something as simple as if you're talking about your favorite dinner. Say, yeah, my wife makes a really mean chicken parm, so I love chicken parm night at our house. It's simple, and more importantly, it's true. And you can use something like that to kind of give little subtle hints that you really care about your wife. Again, these little things might seem insignificant to us at the time, and maybe nobody even really notices you talking up your wife, but what they will notice is how you treat her and what it really looks like to be a good husband. And you can set an example for others of what a good marriage looks like. But don't limit yourself to only talking her up when you're with others. Who you are in public should be who you are in private as well. We all have disagreements in our marriage. We all get to a point where this person we love so much just knows the buttons to push to get under our skin. I know how to do it to my wife. She knows how to do it to me. It's really hard in the moment when your tempers are high and emotions are all over the place to remember to keep your cool. You don't want to say something that you can't take back. But if you're like me, when you inevitably say something hurtful in the heat of the moment, swallow your pride right then and there and apologize in that moment when you realize what you've done. Don't let that anger and hostility and resentment build up, because it's just going to make the moment worse. It takes a real, strong individual to do this. And trust me when I tell you, it's not easy. I can count on one hand how many times I was able to do it in the moment. But as you build on that, you make it a habit. When you realize you've done something stupid, stop what you're doing, swallow your pride, and apologize. Trust me, men, it's gonna help your marriage. She's gonna respect you for it, and ultimately you're gonna grow in love together. One thing we can tend to do as men, take out our stress and anxiety from work or anything really on our wife. And that's never a good idea. What I started doing, and I think is very helpful, at least in my marriage, is when I'm about to walk into the room after I have a stressful day, a stressful moment, anxiety, whatever it may be, I'll say a little prayer, something simple like, Lord, help me to treat my wife respectfully right now, even though I'm stressed and anxious. It's simple. It's just you talking to God, right? Very simple, very easy prayer. You don't have to have a profound prayer every time you say something to God. Talk to him bluntly and clearly, and he'll help you. Another good way to foster your respect for your wife is to get into the habit of finding something to compliment her on as often as possible. Now, don't lie, don't make something up, but there's always something that you can compliment your wife on. Something even simple as, I like the way you did your hair today, or nice shoes, whatever it may be. It doesn't really matter about the compliment, it's about the thought that you're thinking of her. If you practice these good habits, after a while, you'll just be complimenting her naturally. And you know what? She's going to take notice of that, and it's going to improve your marriage. Praying for your wife every single day should be a top priority for you. Not only is prayer a good way to communicate with God, but it's the most powerful thing you can do to help another person. So why wouldn't you want to do that for your wife every single day? God wants to give out his graces freely to all who ask for it. He loves when we build up his kingdom by praying for others, especially those that we love and are close to. Pray for your wife by name as often as you can think about it. You know her better than anyone else. You know her struggles, you know her weaknesses, you know her strengths. You know the things that she needs help with right now. Ask God to help her with those things. Ask God to bring her closer to himself. You know that your job in life is to protect her, to provide for her. You provide food and shelter and other good things for her. How much more important is it that you ask God to help provide the most important thing? His graces, his relationship with her. It's your job to get her into heaven. That's your primary focus in life. So pray for her. Ask God to bring her closer to him. Another benefit to praying for her daily is that it gives you more opportunities to think of her, and think of her in a positive light. The more often we think of our wives in a positive light, the more our love for her will grow in our hearts. So men, pray for your wives every day, more than once a day. Every time you think about her, ask God to help her. This is another pretty obvious one, right? Be loyal. Don't cheat on your wives. Duh, that's marriage 101. But it's more complex than it looks at first glance, because our society today kind of deceives us about what cheating on our wives really looks like. There are many people out there that think, either consciously or subconsciously, that looking at another woman with lust in your heart is just fine. As long as you don't act on it, they'll say. Well, that's just plain wrong. And Jesus literally tells us the exact opposite. You have heard that it was said, "You shall not commit adultery." But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. So here's a hot take. Watching porn is cheating on your wife. Not only is it a mortal sin that'll surely send you to hell if you don't repent of it, but it'll destroy your marriage. For certain, it'll destroy your marriage. I know that because I was there at one point. And only through God's immense graces, through the sacrament of confession, was I able to be brought out of it. I'm quite sure that if God didn't break me free of my addiction to pornography, my marriage would have fallen apart. Men, there is nothing more disrespectful that you can do to your wife, and yourself for that matter, than continue to watch porn. Stop now. Stop today. Break yourself free from the bondage of slavery that you are in with porn. Go to confession as soon as you possibly can. Get yourself free of pornography for you and for the sake of your marriage. Even in the odd one-off circumstance where your wife is just A-okay with you watching porn, she sees nothing wrong with it, guess what? It's still wrong. It's still going to send you to hell, and it's still going to harm your marriage. Jesus makes this super clear, so stop justifying it. If you want to get free of porn, there's a website out there that can really help you with this. I have zero affiliation with this, but I know some people who have used this and it really helped them. It's called strive21.com, and I'm going to put a link in the description below. I make absolutely no money from this. I just want to help you. So do your marriage a favor and start the healing process now. You are called by God to lead your family. You are called to be strong both physically and spiritually. You need to take care of yourself by eating right and exercising and not becoming a burden to your wife. More importantly, though, you need to have a really good, strong relationship with God. It starts with you. Everyone in your family is looking up to you as a father, as a husband. You need to make sure that you pray every day, but also that your entire family prays every day. You need to give a good example for your wife. If possible, pray together with your wife. Let your wife see your relationship with God as a good, holy example. It's your number one responsibility in life is to get your wife to heaven. You were literally put here on this earth for that very purpose. Put God first in your life, in everything. Go to Mass every Sunday. Do all the things that show her that you put God before anything else in your entire life. Once you have Jesus as the center and foundation of your marriage, everything else will follow suit. Being a man of God means working really hard for your wife, putting food on the table, paying the bills. She should be able to stay home and raise up a really good family instead of having to concern herself with paying the bills and doing things that you should be concerning yourself with. And don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean she shouldn't be able to work or do other things she loves. She has to stay home and she has to take care of the children. No, you're not a tyrant. That's not how marriage works. I mean, we all know that. Intrinsically, we know that. So remember that being a good leader means that you're not a tyrant. It means the opposite, actually, that you are a servant to those that you take care of. A good husband communicates well, listens well, and trusts his wife. A good husband supports her dreams. A good husband wants what's best for his wife. A good husband imitates Christ's sacrificial love. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. For I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Christ takes our burdens on himself. He wants us to give them to him so that we don't have to carry them alone. This is what husbands are called to do for their wives. Take her burdens on yourself, even if it makes your load heavier. That's your duty. That's your job in life. Look for ways every day to lighten her load, to make her day better. Go out of your way actively to seek her betterment. When you come home from work, remember that she worked a full day too, whether she's a stay-at-home mom or she went out and earned a paycheck. She works hard and deserves rest as well. So take some of that load from her. Cook dinner when you can. Take the kids to practice when you can. Our lives as husbands should be joyful, but not necessarily easy. It's hard to be selfless. It's hard to take on other people's burdens. But God loved us so much that he gave his only son to die so that we could live. We have to imitate that. We have to die to ourselves every day and live for Christ and live for our wives. God made you for her and her for you. You were literally made for each other. So imitate Christ and give everything you have for her every day of your life and never stop. And as always, I'll be praying for you, so please pray for me too. Thank you so much for watching. If this video helped you in any way, if you got anything out of it, like us down below, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications so that when new videos are uploaded, you know about them. And if there's anything in particular you'd like for me to talk about in the future, leave a comment down below. As always, thanks for watching and God bless you.